Welcome, everybody, to this learning session all about UMA voting. As a member of UMA DAO, you get to have to say in how the community is run, as well as what kind of activities and projects to fund. First, I want to take you to the discourse forum for UMA. Anyone here can make a proposal. By the way, if you have any questions as we're going along, please feel free to interrupt and we'll take questions as we go along. Plus, we'll have a Q&A at the end. But I just want to give you the whole overview of the types of way that you can get involved in UMA and to do the voting as well. You can follow along on the screen as well here. So if you have an idea for a funding request for a project, an integration with another protocol, a partnership proposal, you can write something on our discourse forum. And there's several here, and I'm just going to pick one that's current, and that's John's Oya protocol. And here you can put what your project is and how much funding you're looking for from the UMA DAO. And people here can ask questions and get replies. And there is a vote. Now, this vote is not binding, and you do not need any UMA for this vote. It's more like signaling of the feelings, the sentiments of people. When you put a proposal here, and anybody can come to the discourse and join the discourse, you do not have to be an UMA token holder to do this. It acts like a signaling, and it's not binding. Once the proposer thinks, hey, this has a good chance of passing, it passes to the snapshot. And again, this is off-chain. But here you will need UMA. You need to be an UMA token holder. If I look at the strategies, you need to have UMA, and it has to be on Ethereum mainnet. Once it passes this proposal stage, there's a further stage, and that will be the on-chain voting. You post it on Discourse, you then go to a snapshot vote, and then there will be an on-chain vote. So this would be like a governance vote. Now, we are looking at changing this process because we have this great product called OSNAP, which you can integrate with your snapshot. And if it passes via the snapshot, it can actually trigger an on-chain transaction. For example, if a funding requests, it would not need to go through this on-chain voting because you can do this all from snapshot. But that's some way down the line. Now, that's for funding requests and for governance protocol changes and the like for the project itself. There is another part of voting, and I think this is why most people are here, and this is for dispute resolutions. And it's an essential for securing the optimistic oracle. Everyone in this system are incentivized to come to a consensus. We call it optimistic, this oracle, because any off-chain, like real-world data that needs to be put on-chain is deemed true, unless it is disputed. Now, both the disputer and the proposer have to put a bond, which they will lose in case the vote goes at them. And this is great for prediction markets. And as you can see here, we have a number of Polymarket prediction markets that have been disputed. The way we come to a consensus is in the DAO. There's two channels, the voting channel and also evidence rationale, where everybody can have a say and an opinion about which is correct. And there's a number of answers that you can come. So there's yes, no. Only as far as I know, and this was the last voting round, have something that was unknown. Usually when there's a dispute, it's not usually, but sometimes, for example, a football game, the proposer has proposed the answer before the game has ended. Even though they might be correct in their answer, it was done too early, and then it will get disputed. So you have your UMA tokens. How do you stake and why should you stake? Firstly, the reason to stake is that you are securing the protocol. And the more people, the more decentralized it is, the better, hopefully, the answers will be. And for staking, you come in here and you will stake. The thing to bear in mind is that once you stake, if you want to unstake, then there will be a 7-day cooldown period. This is by design. Now, the act of staking, and also when you're claiming your rewards, these are not given back to you. So there is a cost. When you are voting, though, every month, usually the following month during the middle of that month, you will get a gas rebate on your voting, because every time you vote, there will be a gas associated with it. And we are on Ethereum, and sometimes the gas prices are high. And one of the questions we get is how much Ethereum you're going to need for gas. And that's a difficult question. It depends on the number of votes and also on the gas prices. But I tend to have $200 or $250 worth of Ethereum just in case. I've had to use that a few times. So it's quite a lot. This is something you're going to have to bear in mind. You will get this back, but for that time period of that month, then you need to have that in reserve to be able to carry on the voting. And the voting itself, you will get additional rewards. Just purely staking at the moment, you will get 33% APR, which is pretty good. And when you vote, you can have a top up. If you vote the correct way, then you will get an additional UMA reward that will go on top of your staked amount. Now, there's this thing slashing, which I'm not a fan of. If you don't vote and you don't vote correctly, you will get slashed, and you will get slashed 0.1% of your staked amount. Those slash will be used to give those who voted correctly pro rata share of those slashed amounts. Okay, so there were some questions in the thing. Let me look at that now. Where do the reimbursements come from, and how often do they come? It is from Risk Labs, and it's usually in the middle of the month. There's a slight lag. And Tuna is saying staking rewards outweigh slashing by a lot, luckily. If you vote all the time, then it's great. You will get the 33% plus all the voting rewards. The way it's been designed is if you are not voting at all, but you are staked, then it will tend to slightly positive over the course of a year. It will be almost as if you are not staked in the dApp. This, of course, can change, and depending on the period of time you were there. For example, you've staked, there are many votes during that month, and you've not voted, and then you decide to stake the very next month, then you will probably go out with less. But over the course of a year, it should even out, even if you're not voting. Of course, the more times you vote, like I said, the system is incentivized for you to vote. Razor85 is asking lots of good questions here. What if the vote is split? And PVM said it will roll over and vote again. So far, we've had one vote roll over twice. But by that time, usually you have a sentiment of where the voting is going. And this has happened to me. Even if I disagree with what the actual outcome should be, I've relented and voted the other way because that's the way the sentiment has gone. And maybe at the end, we can go through some examples as well of controversial ones. And there's one I'm thinking of specifically that I voted against initially and then had changed my mind. Now, it's worthwhile also to stake your UMA in the voted app and take part, because every time the vote over the year, there's a 5% inflation of the staked amount. It's actually because there's an amount of UMA outside the system, so it's slightly less than 5%. By having UMA tokens and not voting, there's a 5% inflation. So the value of your UMA with respect to those that are staked is less. So again, it's another incentive mechanism to stake. Right. If we look at one of these, so if we click on here, it will tell us the discussions, and it will pick this up from the evidence rationale from the Discord channel. So here most people are saying it's P4. And generally, if it's like this, then I will go with this. Lots of people do research on these questions, and you can find details about the actual proposal here, the details, the voting options, and you can actually follow it to the optimistic oracle if you want to do a deep dive on this. If you want more in-depth technical information how all this works, if you go to the UMA docs, it shows you how it all got worked out. And since the inceptions of the Voted App 2, we've not made changes, but again, through governance voting, a governance proposal, people can come in and actually change this. I would like a world where there's no slashing, but at the moment there is. So if you're talking about roll votes, so these will give all the technical details. A couple of things that you can do as well is once you've staked there with your wallet, you can actually delegate another wallet, say a hot wallet, say maybe a wallet on your mobile for when you're doing the voting, because you might not be at your desk all the time. So you can delegate to another wallet, but it's only a one-to-one relationship. You can't have multiple wallets delegating to the same wallet. And if that wallet has UMA staked as well, then that will not be counted. It will only be if you've delegated to that wallet, it can only vote on behalf of that other wallet. So I had personal experience of this where you think you can actually delegate your vote essentially to another wallet, but it's only on a one-to-one relationship. So that's important to remember. It's designed for your main wallet to be staked, and then you can delegate it to another hot wallet, which may only do the voting, and that's all it does. And the other thing that I've seen as well, you cannot unstake during a reveal period. At the moment, it's a commit period. I should explain this. So whenever there's a dispute, there's 24 hours for you to commit your vote. When you commit your vote, this is encrypted. No one can see your vote. And that happens over 24 hours. After that 24 hours, it's the reveal period where you have to go in and reveal your vote. And then everybody be able to see how you voted. It's a way to guard against corruption, having this two-phase system of voting. So you commit and then you reveal. During the 24-hour reveal period, i.e. tomorrow, this will be now, if you wanted to unstake, you can't. You have to wait another day. Yes, what happens if you forget to reveal? You will get slash, but not as much as if you had not committed. I'm not a fan of the slashing, personally. Now, one of the things that I'd like to open it out to people is, what is the minimum amount of UMA do you think you need to make staking worthwhile? Because obviously there's a economic cost in the sense like there's an opportunity cost, not economic cost, an opportunity cost of you need to have enough Ethereum to do the voting. And sometimes if the gas is really high, voting can be $20, $30, $40 just for the commit, and then $20, $30 for the reveal. Okay, you will get this back in a month's time, but during that period of time, maybe you could have done something with that. So when does it become more profitable for you to stake in the Voted app, and how much should you be able to stake? I don't know if anybody has an idea of what's the minimum amount you should stake. So if you've got 10 UMA, is that worthwhile to stake still? Especially the old hands on here. I wonder if you have anything, PVM, Tuna.
I think any amount, it's a good start. You can just add it on top once you get some more. But one thing I always do, no matter the holding I have, I always participate in governance, because that's how DAOs work. 10 UMA, 20 UMA, everything counts at the end of the day.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yes, so UMA is a governance token. It's more than that as well. It's securing the optimistic oracle, which is the basis of a lot of products. I talked about OSNAP earlier. There are any disputes within transactions and things. People can dispute an OSNAP transaction, and we've seen one or two of those in here, and we've also seen across disputes. So across is, for those who don't know here, is a bridge. So you bridge from L1 to L2s and L2s to L2s as well. And those all operate optimistically, and it's secured by the optimistic ORA code, which is in turn secured by us, the UMA voters, because we're the last arbiters. I've written one or two questions. If anybody else has any questions, let us know. And we get this quite often. Why on Ethereum? Because it's so expensive. And the truth of that is because Ethereum is the most secure blockchain. And until there's a mechanism that we can utilize, which is as secure as it being on Ethereum, I think we will stay here. So Tuna makes an observation. Voting is important to UMA, so understand why slashing is necessary to get people to participate. Yes, I understand that. I just don't like slashing. And yes, you're right, Midday. With great powers come great responsibility. And it is a responsibility, and many UMA voters take this very seriously. One of the aspects of it which I haven't talked about is we do have a team of verifiers. I think we have one or two here who pretty much look at what's being proposed, and if necessary, they will dispute. And again, there are incentivize the verification team to take a look and dispute things when things come up. So we have real people's eyes. It's not just bots on there that will look for possible disputes. Again, it's this incentive mechanism where we're trying to reach consensus. Tuna is saying, so maybe there should be a secondary type of staking for inactive holders. Possibly, but then would you take people away from the voted app? I wonder. And actually I can show it on here. We did try to set up an UMA Geyser delegator pool where people would delegate their vote to an entity, and that entity would vote on their behalf and taking, like, say, 5% or whatever other amount. And it was kind of, initially there would be one entity that would be the delegator. In time there would be like a competition amongst delegators, essentially act like validators in a sense. So there will be the delegator, and you can choose which delegator you go to. And because it does take time to do this. It narrowly failed on Snapshot, and we weren't sure why. There were some people that were against it, so we did not take that further. But it is something that could be done using a geyser pool. Okay, let me read through some more of these. So staking will get us 30%, 33% APR right now. Yeah, rewards are calculated by the millisecond, so it's accumulated all the time. One thing to bear in mind is that you will get rebated the gas for voting, but when you claim, you can claim it directly to your wallet, or you can claim and restake. The gas you use for that is not reimbursed. It's only for voting that's reimbursed. Okay, Elliot's saying, why don't you have some people with less money and UMA commit their votes off-chain, and they would stake their UMA in this proxy account? Then it would be cheaper to vote. There is a way to do that, I guess, and there's a way with, you could have a multisig, and it's via OSNAP, and you can come to a way where you do this off-chain vote, and it triggers this on-chain where it will vote in a particular way. So there are some designs out there. Hey, Elliot, if you're a dev, if you look on the snapshot proposal, also, if we go back here, there was, and you can see my name here, we did have a design for this on how to have a delegator. So if you're interested, we can talk more about this. We were going to do this with Geyser, if you're familiar with Geyser. One of the things we encountered, though, because it would require more code and we would need for that to be audited, and that's would be quite a lot of costs. It's several thousand probably. So that's why we went for the funding, tried to
Sorry,
fund.
a decent audit will cost several $100,000. Like an audit that they'll just write their name on, it costs a couple thousand. But like a real audit costs several $100,000.
Yeah, so we were doing this with Geyser, and they would be writing the code, and they would have been because we want this to be properly audited, because we don't want people to lose money, right?
No, I know, but I would be a
if,
third party, so it's not really right.
Yeah, but it's open to anybody,
No,
right?
of course, like I
To
could
do this,
obviously
and
build
yeah,
that
yeah,
application. People could stake their UMA. It wouldn't have to be officially associated with UMA per se.
indeed, yeah, yeah, okay, but yeah, would be interested to explore that more with you.
Yeah, if you could DM me that article, that'd be great.
Sure. One of the other things as well is that for some disputes, and they're mostly polymarket, prediction markets disputes, they can be very controversial. And there's a few that I've voted against what I thought should be, because I didn't want to get slashed. So I voted with what the majority said. There was one about GTA release date, and they came out saying 2025. For me, 2025 is not a release date, but the sentiment was in the voting channel and things like that, that it is a date, it is announced, it is a date. A year can be a date, whereas I thought no, it's not a date. But I chose against, and because I knew what the sentiment was, I voted that way. There was another one, I can't remember which one it was
But
actually.
isn't that
Oh,
isn't
sorry.
that pretty bad for getting accurate votes because people will start to just go with the sentiment? Isn't slashing perhaps bad for having accurate voting?
Yeah, I agree with that. This is why one of the reasons I don't like the slashing part. But I understand why it's there as well. And the original theory behind this is to try and reach a Schelling point. If you ask 1,000 people a question, it can be any question, a yes or no question, then if you get all that information, you will tend to most of the time get the correct answer. Because if you just get 1,000 random people, then there normally is like a Schelling point. There's normally kind of a consensus, and normally that is the truth. But that doesn't normally always happen. There can be, and we've seen this in the voting channel, and some psyops going on, right? So where people will introduce FUD into there, can be sometimes very difficult to go through, which answers on there are legitimate or something's made up. And sometimes there's no kind of correct answer. It's literally asking opinion. This is why I stay away from calling it truth machine. Most of the time it will come out with the truth, but that's why I call it a consensus. It's more of a consensus machine rather than it being a truth machine, because 99% of the time it will have the truth, but there will be that small percentage where maybe it's not the truth, but a lot of time it's opinion as well, right? Yeah, and Tunis brought up that the Polymarket asking ambiguous questions as well. That doesn't help when the question is ambiguous. One of the first ones we had was interesting. It was saying, will Zelensky be the person of the year, the Time Person of the Year? And actually, it was Zelensky and the spirit of the Ukrainian people. So was Zelensky the person of the year, or does the spirit of the Ukrainian people persons as well? And that was a really interesting one.
And how did it resolve? He won?
Yeah, so I think it was resolved that Zelensky was the person of the year.
Yes, it was. And another controversial one was with the submarine.
Oh, yes.
That was a crazy one. $1 million in there.
Do you want to just explain that scenario again?
So if you guys remember when that submarine went missing, looking after the Titanic wreckage or something, it was a dispute regarding if it was found or not.
Yeah, it wasn't Titanic wreckage. It was another wreckage, that submarine that blew
No,
up.
but the submarine went to check the Titanic wreckage or something like that, to view it or something. They went to see something deep underwater, and then they imploded. It was disputed if it was found or not, and I think the main issue was, as always, the wording on Polymarket, because it was in the wording will be solved as yes if they will find the cabin, but it's a submarine which doesn't have a cabin, so I think that was the main issue in the wording. But finally, it was solved as a yes because it was found, because they found the tail and they found all the pieces except the cabin, which it has no cabin. I remember lots of people went upset about that one.
One thing I will say for this, though, it's other oracles cannot even begin to answer these kind of questions. This is where the optimistic oracle wins out, because you have technology backed up by people as well. There will always be edge cases, and thankfully they're few and far between. They are quite lively, and the more decentralized we can get it as well, the better it will be. When you vote, that means it's a two-step process. You commit and you reveal. And again, the reason why it's a two-step process is when you commit, it's encrypted, so nobody can see your vote, how you voted. And then that's in a 24-hour period, and then the next 24-hour period, it's you reveal. Both stages incur gas, and so there might be several votes in a month. Can be 10 votes, can be less, or can be more. That gas will be reimbursed to you the following month, usually in the second or third week. So it's not immediately reimbursed, but it will be reimbursed. The only thing that's not reimbursed is for staking and claiming rewards. Okay, there's another question, I think. In case I missed it, what is the repercussion of getting a vote wrong? If you get a vote wrong, then 0.1% of your date amount gets slashed. So essentially, tell me if I'm wrong, guys, for every 1,000 UMA you have, you will get slash 1 UMA. It'd be nice to have 1,000 UMA currently, I'm guessing. I don't know what the price is at the moment, but it's going up and down a lot. June is saying he's been slashed a few times. I've been slashed a few times as well. You will make it up fairly quickly. It probably takes a few days or even less to make that up, because remember, you are earning at the moment 33% rewards. So if you had 1,000, you're earning 333 UMA over the course of that year. And if you're voting most of the time, then that's a really good return on your investment. But it is an active. It's not like you are LPing somewhere and you just leave it there to accrue. You have to be active in the voting to get the rewards. You have to earn those 33%, as it were. So if you get a vote correct, then what is the reward? So as long as you're getting the 33% right. Now, for those who haven't voted or voted incorrectly, that amount is then given to those who did vote correctly on a pro rata basis. Sometimes, especially in these controversial ones, where it could be like a 70-30 split, because there's so many incorrect voters, then you will get a lot more in terms of rewards. And that goes directly, you don't have to claim that. That goes directly onto your staked amount. Yeah, that's what just Tuna said as well. Controversial votes can pay out more. And this is why sometimes there is this psyops in the voting channel where people are putting FUD there. And maybe because they were voted in a particular way in the prediction market, Polymarket, for example, you have to scrutinize. And when there are several votes like there are today, then it does take time as well. I like what media say. It's not perfect, but it depends on coordinated human integration. another thing Mid is saying, yeah, we're trying to improve this system all the time. I've been voting for 2 years now. I'm kind of been invested in this for a long time, and you start off kind of slowly with lower amounts, and then it just builds up and builds up. It's the cumulative, and you do learn from other people as well a lot about several different kind of topics. Unfortunately, at the moment, a lot of it surrounds things like war and things, and then it causes you to read more and try to evaluate things. So it does broaden your horizons out as well, I think. And I always like learning new things. So for me, it's great. Let's just do a quick recap. So you go to the voted app, you stake your amount. It's going to cost you some gas to stake. If you ever want to unstake, then there will be a 7-day cooling down period where it will be limit. You will not. But I've never actually unstaked my personal UMA. I've just kept it in there. Every time there's a vote, it's a 2-stage process. You commit on one day and you reveal the next day. You usually have some notice. Keep an eye on evidence rationale in the UMA Discord, and whenever there's a new dispute, it will go into there. And there's lots of people are predicting which ones will get disputed as well. So you can get some forewarning, and then you've got 24 hours to commit, and then remember to reveal the next day. If you vote incorrectly or you've not voted, you will get slash, and it's 0.1% of your staked amount. If you voted and you get correct, you will get a pro rata share of the amount from those that did not vote, that were staked that did not vote or voted incorrectly. Thank you all for turning up on this learning session. We will be putting this on YouTube as well, so if you missed some parts of it, then you'll be able to look back at it. Thank you for turning up. See you next time.